Guys, let's try this again. Instagram is being Instagram as far as that is. So Trey and I are going to be going live to be talking about healthy expectations for sustainable progress. Obviously, it's the new year. A lot of people have good mannered and good intention goals when it comes to their health and fitness journey. Maybe they want to lose some weight. Maybe they just want to feel better, yada, yada, yada. So Trey and I are going to kind of talk about like what is reasonable and healthy when it comes to sustainable progress, whether you're wanting to drop a couple of pounds, maybe the bodybuilding spectrum, you're wanting to move up a weight class or maybe bring a tighter package or whatever your goal is. We're kind of going to talk about and navigate like some challenges that you may face and kind of how to navigate those challenges and really talk about like how you can start to create better habits around whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Instagram was kind of being weird, so I don't know if this is going to work, but hopefully it does work this time around. I'm going to try to invite him to this live and hopefully things work out for the better. Him that I am live and it just hasn't been working, so we'll see. So be patient. Oh, perfect. Hell yeah. What's up?
What's up? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty sore, but I'm good.
From training, I'm assuming? Yeah.
Yes. Not. I don't know what else people are sore from. I guess just old age, but I'm not there yet. It's coming though.
Right, you're still in your 20s, so,
Yeah, it's
right?
like yeah. I'll be 29 in April. God, that's scary to say out loud.
Yeah, you have time.
It's coming for me though. Don't worry.
Right, right. Sweet. Cool. How's everything been?
Good. Really good. I'm excited to be up in Ohio on Thursday to see the Winter Wonderland that you guys had.
Oh, are you coming out to see family or
Yeah, so my grandma's surprise 80th is on Saturday, so I'm flying up to see her.
what? Is she in Dayton, Toledo?
Dayton.
Dayton?
Yep, you're right. You're right.
Okay.
I appreciate you remembering because like almost
Sweet.
no one knows where the fuck Dayton
Yeah.
is.
No, you're not missing anything. I don't. We got a little bit of snow. I don't know if Dayton got hit harder.
They got about 10 inches. I don't know. One of my
Dude,
friends posted something funny that she put like a dildo in the snow, and she's like, "Yep, 10 inches." So it got pretty up there. I know.
gross. No, I think we only got like 3 where we're
Ugh,
at.
that's still pretty bad for me. But I mean, I'm a baby when it comes to snow.
Right, right. Yeah. Sweet. Cool.
Absolutely. So I know we're going to talk about kind of like healthy expectations when it comes to, not only the New Year's, but also kind of like just in general. And I think it'd be really good to talk about like what healthy expectations are, but maybe even before we dive into that, like common challenges that we see clients kind of face that usually deter them from reaching their goals.
Okay. You want to start? Or you want me to start?
Yeah, so I can just rattle off some things at the
Yeah.
top of my head when it comes to like initial kind of roadblocks to starting any fitness journey is usually people think that they don't have enough time. They think they don't have enough money. Maybe they feel like they don't have enough knowledge, like they don't even know how to get started. And then some people where it's like, especially since, as bodybuilders, we always hear the, oh, I couldn't do what you do. I don't have the willpower. I don't have the discipline or
Right.
whatever. So I feel like those are like some common things when it comes to roadblocks. And then people kind of come almost like disingenuous when it comes to like having unrealistic expectations because they think that with the day and age that we have now where everything's at the snap of your fingers, they have that issue with instant gratification, thinking that that's everything that they're going to get instantly without having to put in a little bit of sweat equity.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. I would say those are all the same ones I would recommend or
Mhm.
say. I think the other one that I commonly see is lack of value in themselves.
Mm,
People pleasers everyone else, but they can't please themselves. Or they maybe think they got to be super restrictive of everything, whereas they need to give themselves permission to take care of themselves. Permission that we're not asking for perfection, we're asking for consistent effort. It might be 50%, 100% of the year. I think that's another one that I commonly see is just lack of priority of themselves, especially if they're a
yeah.
parent or maybe the main income source of their family or whatever. It's just lack of taking care of themselves or prioritizing themselves. No.
Absolutely. Yeah, because they're in that either caretaker role, whether it's like maybe a mom or a single parent, or especially I'm sure you've seen like people that are in a role like nursing, or if they have like a bunch of people that rely and depend upon them, they almost kind of take the role of being a martyr where they do give to everyone, and then they're so run down and sick in the process that they feel like they're almost like a lost cause, that they just have to feel stuck.
Right. I was actually, before we got on here, I was actually on the phone with a client. Same thing. She's a therapist, starting her business and everything, and she doesn't have the right boundaries in place. She's just saying yes to everything. She's not prioritizing herself because she's like, oh, well, I need to take care of this person. What if they have a crisis? And so again, like most of these people need to be able to take the mirror and shine it at other people. But what we're trying to do is get you to shine the mirror back at yourself. I'm like, okay, well, you might not have 30 hours a week to train and do cardio, but I bet you at least have like 30 minutes.
Mhm.
Or there's other ways we can unpack some things, or maybe you don't have to complicate the process as much. What if we just focus on maybe 2 to 3 key habits? Once you've made that a habit, okay, maybe let's expand those habits and so on and so on.
Exactly. I think that's really important to talk about too, because obviously with the new years, like everyone feels like the sense of newness, and maybe they have a little bit more spring to their step because they're really, really motivated. You know, how many commercials have we seen thus far where it's like the Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Ozempic ads, like all of these things just like completely like fire hose blasting the consumer, where a lot of it is rooted in extremes. And in one way, that's very salesy and very catchy because it's like, oh, I can help you to lose 12 pounds in your first week. Here's how, give me a bunch of money. But something that I'm trying to speak out against when it comes to healthy expectations for long term progress, especially as someone that has been obese, that has lost over 125 pounds, long term sustainable progress is not going to be rooted in extremes.
Yes.
You will be burnt out really, really quick. You might get great instant gratification for 3 months, but who cares if you gain it all back in 2 and then
Correct.
some.
Yep. Yep. I always like to use the example of like, let's say you have Billy or Jesse or whatever. You have Jesse A and Jesse B.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse A is going to come in 2025, going to kill themselves, do everything to the T. At the end of the year, they get to where they want to be. But also at the end of the year, they don't know what to do other than that. Or if they take a break, they do F all because they have not figured out how to. I don't believe in balance, but I believe in permission. I'm going to give myself permission to do X, Y, Z or not hit my steps or whatever thing you want to put in there. But they end up not having those habits in place, that they end up going backwards, or that 1 week they take off turns into 2, then a month, then 3 months, and 6 months, and now they're past that. That's Jesse A. But then Jesse B, it's like, hey, I'm going to set up these 5 to 10 tasks that I'm going to do on a consistent day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
Anything I do on top of that is just icing on the cake, but I will make sure, as long as I'm hitting 8 out of these 10 key tasks, and some of them might be more weighted than the other, I know I'm on the right track. And they might still reach the same goals. It might take them 2 years. But at the end of that 2 years, they're able to keep cranking on and on and on. And that's where we see some people that, and I've had it where I've worked with someone, they've made great progress. They stop with me for whatever reason, or maybe they just don't even need me anymore. And then I touch base with them in 2 to 3 years and they're still kicking ass and go on with their life because they actually developed the goals. They've learned to give themselves permission with certain things. They've learned to not obsess about some of the monotonous things that some coaches, whatever, preach. That's like a good example I like to give people, because the ones that are super extreme, those are usually competitors, but also those are the people that also have every single issue known to man, and they will never get better because they're not willing to get out of the extremes. But when we're talking like lifestyle clients of some of these people with these new year goals or whatever, we're not asking for those extremes. There might be some period in there, like have to be a little bit of extreme for a certain period of time. But if you do that year round, you will burn yourself out. You'll ultimately give up. You'll ultimately never beat whatever goal or accomplish whatever. And that's how we have some people every year, they have the same goal.
Yep.
Oh, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. I'm going to fit into whatever size jeans, or go on this vacation that I keep saying I'm going to keep doing, but they never do because it's not even the same BS excuse, because I don't think it's always excuse. I think they're being too extreme, too aggressive with things,
Exactly.
and understand that this is a journey. It's a process. It's not always about the destination of where you want to get. You'll eventually get there, but you've got to keep going each week, go with the ebbs and the flows and that type of thing.
Absolutely. I think it's really important to also talk about context because if we take like someone who is morbidly obese that eats fast food every single day and gets their Starbucks Frappuccinos where, it's not even coffee at that point, it's a caffeinated milkshake. It's like, and they want to be a bodybuilder. They want to step on stage. It's like, okay, we need to back it up, Jack. We need to focus on foundational habits to first take care of your health. Because at some point, it's like, okay, well, I get you want to look good in a bathing suit, whether it's male or female, like your bikini or your trunks. But like right now, I'm worried that you're going to be a type 2 diabetic, right? Like that's just where we're at right now. So I think it's important to have first context as to who you are and where your starting point is, and then create like little milestones to get you to that overarching goal. Because I think a lot of the times people do want to go from 0 to 100 because they see either their favorite professional, their favorite fitness influencer, and they're like, oh, this is really cool. They're really motivating. They're very inspirational, and that's fine and all. That's fine and all. But your why, the reason why you want to your goal, is very important for making sure you keep the ship afloat, right? It is making sure that it means something to you for the rest of your life, not just for a short period of time, because these things do take time. Whether
Right.
it is just, wanting to lose a little weight, wanting to lose a lot of weight, especially if you want to put on muscle, we know that takes time. If you're a functional health case where, or, troubleshooting some either gut health, liver issues, whatever, maybe you have a deep history of PTSD or trauma. It's like, whatever your starting point is, you do need to have that level of self awareness to understand that this is going to take time. And like you were saying, be focused on the process and the journey because people talk about like the magic or the secret formula. That's found in the journey, it's found in the growth, and it's found in the boundaries that you create, the lessons that you learn when you get to that goal. It's not just, I'm going to have it all when I look like this or feel like this. You look and feel that way because of all of the habits that you've created and all of the success that you've had all across, the weeks and the months and even the years in most cases.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like the way I think about this is like it's like what we always say: meet them where they're at
Hmm.
and start baby steps. So, like, if you're doing absolutely nothing, then I might say, hey, I don't know, 3 days a week, go for a quick half-mile walk,
Hmm.
and then maybe let's say you drink no water. Maybe I want you to drink 36 ounces of water spread throughout the day. You eat nothing but McDonald's and sweet tea all day. Okay, then maybe how about let's say eat 3 times. Okay, maybe one of those meals remove the bun, or maybe instead of a sweet tea, have unsweet tea,
Hmm.
and then maybe add a fruit. That might be where I start someone, and that's fine. And is it perfect? No. And is that what you or I or some others would do? Probably not, because some people are just 0 to 100 and all out or all in. But for
Hmm.
most of the people, that's how you have to attack it and baby step it. And we just milk that out until they stop making progress. Or they're like, hey, this actually feels normal to me. Like, what's the next change I can make? And say, okay, well, increase your water to 46 ounces a day. And maybe let's do 4 half-mile walks a week. And then maybe let's add a serving of veggies and let's turn four or two of those unsweet or sweetened teas to one unsweet. Now you're doing one sweet, two unsweet. And again, to like a lot of coaches that are watching this or bodybuilders are like, what the hell? Like they must not really take it serious. But like at the end of the day, we're not them. We're not going with their
Exactly.
through. And even though logically it's like there's no reason you should rip off the band-aid and just do it, logically they're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's not built in their DNA. They weren't champion athletes or anything. Some are naturally, I don't like to say lazy, but they make less than ideal decisions or less than best use of their time type of thing. That simply might be all you do. Um, and then give yourself some grace, but at times remember you've got to have some grace, but under pressure at the same times, which means at times you're going to have to say no.
Hmm.
You have to hold yourself accountable, and you're going to have to hold the boundaries with yourself.
Hmm.
I find that works well. I like for people to always like write down their why
Yeah.
write down your why, take a picture of it or type it out as a note, make it the screensaver on your phone, take a look at it. That's something I do. Like when it comes to this job, I am not the most confident person. I function off of negativity. That is how I am built. And so what I've done is I've created a collage of things my wife has said, stuff Kenneth Allman has said, stuff Austin has told me, Jeff Sue, like David Bryan, Jake. And when I'm having a rough day or it just seems like shit, this is a really stressful day because of XYZ, whatever's going on, I just reflect. I'm like, okay, that works really. Like I can look at like, okay, this is my why. I'm doing a good job. I'm doing XYZ. It's the same thing if you have some grand goal if you're morbidly obese. Remember that. Take a look at it. Like, okay, this is my why. Some people it might be you take a picture of yourself, you put it at your note, like, I do not want to be this way. And I have some that will do that. And every time I send them a before and after, I have them updated. Okay, now they have where they were, they have where they are now. And each time they just update it. They keep remembering that stuff. And us as coaches, it's our job to keep pointing out those wins and those victories they're not thinking about, which we might have to get creative with every now and then.
Absolutely. I really do appreciate the vulnerability there because I know a lot of people, and I'm the same way, we thrive off that negativity. And unfortunately, sometimes that negativity can actually, but I always, the analogy I use is self-hatred and negativity. It burns hot, but it burns dirty. And so you may get a lot done in a very short period of time, but then when you kind of are just done with it all, you're not nearly as proud of the work that you've done because you didn't do it with the right mindset. And some people can take it even a step too far where that self-negativity ends up being another roadblock, an obstacle, because then they're like, I don't think I can do this. Why even bother trying? Kind of like an Eeyore mentality.
Right. Yeah.
So I think
100%.
a lot of the times it's kind of talking about where it's like, listen, it's not like the self-love movement kind of gets fluffed off as being like a pussy mentality, and it's not about self-love and the fact that you have to give yourself a pass on the hard days. It comes down to having self-compassion, being like, would I talk to my wife that way? Would I talk to my husband
Right.
that way, in the way that I am talking to myself right now? God, I hope not. Right. So it's like having a good hard why where it's like you got to be better and not just like self-flagellate yourself,
Right.
because you're going to go a lot further because you're not going to be taking so much energy away from yourself in terms of like feeling stressed out. I know Austin likes the pie chart
Right.
mentality. I know you like the idea of giving yourself permission, not balance. And the reason why I like those is it requires self-awareness and
Right.
self-reflection. Regardless of how you split it in terms of your pie chart, every little thing that needs your attention gets a little bit of allocation. When you give yourself permission, you are deciding to act or deciding to set a boundary, versus if you just kind of throw caution to the wind of balance, it's like, well, that you almost sound like you're not controlling your life.
Right.
And I'm not saying you need to control every little detail because that's its own little spiral hurricane of mental stress, but control what you can control and let the rest go.
Yep. Totally agree.
Hmm.
100%.
Exactly. So when it comes to setting like actual healthy expectations, like what does that mean to you, or what does that look like with the clients and athletes that you specifically work with? And you can give Gen Pop and maybe even bodybuilding kind of expectations,
Right.
because I feel like that could help both people.
I think it depends on the goal, but like if we're talking, I'll do one of each. So let's say it's like male bodybuilder.
Hmm.
I mean, I usually do, it's either men's physique or male bodybuilder. I don't help female competitors. Um, Expectations. I mean, if you're working with me, the expectation is you're going to spend more time off than you are on. That's just me. But I would say the expectations. I guess it's figuring out what's going on with them. I mean, that's my whole thing. Is it really just does depend. But if you're coming to me, you've been competing back to back and that type of thing.
Hmm.
The first expectation is we're not going to be competing this
Right.
year. We're going to spend time working on XYZ. You'll still make progress, that type of thing. The next expectation is health over everything. There might be some times where we get a little bit iffy with things, and it depends from the anabolic perspective and things like
Yeah, I
that.
mean,
But at the end of the day,
bodybuilding's
yeah.
extreme. Like, I 100%, you got to
But
do what you
then
got to do
at the end of the
sometimes.
day, it's going to be health first,
Yeah.
progress second. And the other thing, I guess it'd be like, don't be afraid to live monotonous lifestyle all the time. I mean, it's boring. I mean, when I was competing, I felt the same way. And then maybe don't be afraid to put on a little bit of fat, a little bit of chub. That
Yeah.
would be my expectation. I mean, that's just how I treat my competitors. You're going to spend way more time off. We're going to spend way more time working on GI, adrenal, immune, etc. We're going to spend a lot of time focusing on the training execution and intensity field. We're going to spend a lot of time working on basics. And I can assure you, you're probably going to take the least amount of stuff you've taken in your entire life, because that's how I coach. That's how I prefer to coach. If we're thinking, I don't use the term gym pop. I always use lifestyle.
Sure.
There's some people I've worked in the past that don't like that term because it makes them not feel as good or as important as a competitor. So I always just say lifestyle.
100%.
Yeah. So I always say lifestyle. So with them, I mean, I guess it depends on the goal. Like if we use like a female that's obese and wants to improve her health and wants her cycle to be improved and that type of thing, then I'm probably going to tell her up front it's going to take a very long time. It's not going to happen in 12
Yeah.
weeks. If she at the end of the day wants to lose 50 pounds in a year, then I might be like, hey, let's make it a goal to lose a few pounds a month periodically, and there might be some holding periods. That's my whole thing. Is like if it's lifestyle, it's always long and slow.
Yeah.
Competitor, it's long and slow, but lifestyle, it's longer and slower because they're quicker to go off the rails or give up really quick. As soon as something doesn't go their way or they mess up in their eyes or make a less than ideal decision, they beat themselves up and then they go back to their old habits. That's kind of my whole thing. And with lifestyle, it's basics, 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 and it's going to be vastly different than a competitor.
Absolutely. And I could even talk on the female competitive side where it's, same thing. It's, yes, monotonous, but I do think a lot of people think that monotonous is always boring. And there are ways to spice things up. Like,
Right.
I'm a huge component and huge supporter of like diversity in the diet, where it's like, okay, let's have like 15 grams of carbs each meal from a different fruit. And so, yes, the gram is going to change, but like, giving them a little bit of autonomy and like how they are feeding themselves, that can help to, you know add a little bit of variety without feeling the need to totally go off the rails, because like you said, like, lifestyle versus competitor, there are going to be different rates of progress, because
Right.
in my opinion the urgency is different. Not that they're
Yep.
not important, they're equally important to that person, but lifestyle wants to drop some weight, feel better, feel healthier. Competitive bodybuilder is going to be on stage in their underwear. Like, that is just totally different mindset when it comes
Yep.
to what we're doing here. And so even like the mental resiliency and getting out of their head is going to be much more important, because you are literally being judged. And like, that's something that a lot of people have a really hard time with. They're always like, are people judging me? Like, are they judging me? Like, I'm bringing my meal. Even if your lifestyle bringing a meal, you might be like, oh my God, they're judging me. And it's like, most people don't give a shit
Right.
about what you're doing. Like, they only care about what they're doing and how other people may be perceiving them. And so if you're able to kind of like redirect the focus on, do what you need to do to be successful and be proud of the work that you're doing, because people are more curious than they are judgmental. So it's like, if you can brag on yourself, dude, go brag on yourself, because you're the one doing the work. Trey and I were just coaches. We
Right.
give you the map, but you're the one driving the car.
Right. 100%.
Hmm.
I mean, I agree with the same thing.
Yeah. I think it is just really important to also just reiterate the where coaches, we want you to be successful. Like, no coach in their right mind wants a client to stay the same or, God forbid, regress. There are some people that, yeah, they might gaslight their clients to, make them stay with them longer because job security. But like, I don't want my clients to be with me the rest of their lives. At least the lifestyle people, like competitive athletes, again, that's a little bit different. 'Cause if you're an athlete, you want to have a coach, right? Like Patrick Mahomes has a coach, like Shaquille O'Neal had a coach. So it's like there's a difference in separation. But for lifestyle clients, it's like, as much as I love checking in with you weekly basis, I love, seeing you train really hard. I love hearing your wins and being proud of you. I don't want you to be with me the rest of your life. I want to see you on Instagram and on Facebook 20 years down the line, still kicking ass, like you were talking
Right.
about earlier. So, as much as your coaches want your success, we also can't want it more than you, which is why it is really important to have those healthy expectations. And it's on both the client and the coach to meet and talk about, hey, what is this actually going to look like in terms of adherence, consistency, and then general enjoyment, so we can actually think and create about sustainability.
Right. Yeah, and I think a lot of that goes back to whatever their original goal is. A lot
Hmm.
of people think way too grand. I want to achieve this goal. Yeah, I want to be a pro bodybuilder and they've never touched a weight in their life, or gotten dead last in a true novice class, or it could be I want to lose 100 pounds in a year and not be a diabetic anymore.
Don't recommend.
Right. So I think a lot of that does go back to that initial conversation we have with the client. That's why I always do an initial call. Like I will never take on you unless we've actually talked. Um, and then us, and then I always do another call with them when their plan's done to make sure we're on the same page.
Hmm.
So what we want, because for some, you might give them a plan. It's like, I actually can't do that. That's very stressful. It's like, okay, cool. What about this is stressful? And we can control the conversation, control their stress and everything before we send it. So I always let do a second call. But I think all of those things are things I always try to consider. Again, if it's lifestyle, keep it simple, stupid. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Um, and if you think it's simple, okay, I like to take a look at how can I make it even simpler
Hmm.
and go from there. And I find that's the biggest thing. That's why I'm not a fan of always tracking for some people. Is just going about a different way.
Exactly. And that's where it's like important to be creative and think outside the box because, like most of us, at least I can speak for myself, when I first started coaching, it was macros. Macros and like a very generic training plan. And that's what I thought coaching was. Didn't even take into consideration anything else other than did you hit your macros? Not even food sources, dude. Like it was that
Right.
bad. And when you evolve and as you invest in your education, and especially as you invest in the level of care you want to provide, and really level up your services to get the people that you care for the best results that you can possibly get them, it is important to consider the whole person. And as much as, I even talked about today, I posted how I threw away my Fitbit, and that was the best thing for me because I was so inundated with steps and resting heart rate and yada, yada, yada. And it made everything worse. And so when I actually pulled back the number of variables I tracked, I became a better athlete because I was able to be present with my husband on dinner dates
Right.
or just having dinner in general. Like I wasn't worried about all these other things that quite frankly I shouldn't have been worried about in the first place because I had a
Right.
coach. But it's still something where because of the information available to me on Instagram about you have to track all of these things or you're leaving progress on the table or it's not optimal, I failed to realize it wasn't optimal for me. And again, it just kind of goes back to the initial conversation we had about what is your why and what is your context and who are you? Are you a type A person that tends to spiral really easily, or are you a type B person where you kind of need someone to light a fire under your ass just to kind of get going?
Right. Right. Yeah, and that's why I don't usually go those routes with it. I couldn't tell you. I maybe have one person that does macros. I
Hmm.
mean, they're all given their macros per meal, and they have swap
Yep.
options or whatever. But the day the macros aren't exact with the swap options. I never got into that because I'm not going to be the guy that teaches you how to count macros.
Hmm.
Because to me, you just plug it into a system and go. I've never been about that. And the same thing with all the data. Like they have one guy that checks blood glucose, and that's because he uses insulin, and that is it.
Right.
Even the type 2 diabetics I don't have do it because they hyper focus on it.
Yep.
It's the same thing with the steps. There's very seldom people I have track steps or blood pressure or anything. I used to be all for that,
Hmm.
but I found out every single person got burnt out. They got tired of all the data. They got tired of all the fancy stuff or whatever else people post online. And I think for anyone that's watching this and they're trying to think, okay, what are my expectations going the year?
Hmm.
Just keep in mind you don't need to do everything that's talked about online. You just don't. It's not a necessity. I'm sure Ashley gets people progress that don't do that. I
Hmm.
know for a fact that I have a lot of people that I don't do that with because I will not do it myself, and I do not believe in it at all for majority of people. And I think that's key things, and then just a good thing I like to do for the year is set your goals into 12, 24,
Hmm.
52 week increments. Get more specific for the 12 week, and then you can broaden it out as you go. So if your goal is to improve body comp, then okay, maybe 12 weeks you get very specific. I want to lose X amount of inches in 12 weeks. Be realistic. If you're female, maybe 2 to 3. I mean, I don't know. And then 26, maybe say, okay, I want to be down 6. And then maybe at the end of the year, it's okay, I just want to reach whatever goal. I think that's another thing that works well. And I encourage everyone, if you're just starting out, probably, unless you're really type A and you really want to dive head first, you're probably better off not tracking anything.
Yeah.
You start with basics, hammer the basics. Once you get used to that, okay, let's expand and go from there. And then competitors like to simplify things as well, and really focus on like the nuts and bolts of what building muscle and losing body fat is, and that's cardio, hard training, nutrition, rest, etc. Notice I didn't say drugs, because the drugs, in my opinion, are only a small part of it.
At least it should be, in my opinion, in our opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Exactly. I think it's also really important to touch on the idea that you have to factor in setbacks into your journey, because a lot of people just think, like, how many times have we heard as coaches or even said ourselves, like, oh, just when life slows down. If life slows down, you're dead.
Right.
Like that's just how it is, right? So don't wait for the perfect time to make a change, to get started. Don't be like, oh, I'll start next week when things should be a little bit calmer with work. Like that is not how life works. Life always has challenges, which is why it's important to understand you need to be adaptable. There needs to be fluidity in your plan that allows for you to still be successful and make progress without you throwing in the towel and reverting to all or nothing type of mentality thinking, because it doesn't make sense to do that. If your car's check engine light comes on, you're not going to fucking go slam it into a guardrail.
Right.
That doesn't make sense, right? So your diet, your training should not be that way. Factor in setbacks into the plan, because things do pop up. You get sick, your car breaks down, your kid gets sick, there's 30 inches of snow that happens. Like
Right.
there are things outside of your control, but the things that I kind of repeat to my clients, there are three things you can always control. It is how you nourish your body, which is yes, your food, and yes, your water. Also how you consume media and consume negativity. That's part of your nourishment.
Right.
How you move your body, whether it's hard training in the gym, walks outside, your cardio, your yoga, your stretching, whatever, and then your attitude, right? And that last piece is so vital, because if you're not doing what you're doing with a grateful heart, like you need to reevaluate. You need to take a step
Right.
back, because your goals should be your own. Your life is your own. And it is really important that you recognize that it is a gift, because it can help to kind of broaden your perspective a little bit and make you check yourself. Because even on your worst day is someone else's dream.
Correct.
And when you think about that and reiterate that and look at your phone screen to remember your why, take a breath, be angry at a situation that's outside of your control, but then let it go. So that way, that like one time, that 1 minute in that one day where you're really pissed off doesn't turn into a shit month, because it can absolutely happen if your headspace is wrong.
Right. And that's why, like with all my clients, it's built into their programming. Like every day you're supposed to do something for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not fitness, it's not nutrition. It cannot be that.
Yes.
Because there will be a point in everyone's life where you can't do these habits.
Mm-hmm.
There is a point in your life. And if you don't have that in place, trust me, I've been on the other side where I didn't have that, and I made very less than ideal decisions. So, like, that's the other thing to remember. Self-care, make certain things a priority. What Ashley's saying, like, I tell people the same thing. You only control what you can put in your body, what you do with some of your times, and then how you respond to situations. You can't control any situation, but you can control your response to everything.
Absolutely.
Something upsets you, okay, then it's probably best to reflect, why does this upset me in the first place? Usually it's a personal issue. Someone's hurt you, someone's done you wrong, or maybe you're finally taking charge of your life and you're finally feel able to speak up for yourself, and maybe that's why it upsets you. You feel the nerve to actually say something this time. But that's really all you can control. Those are all things you got to keep in mind, because you're not going to have perfect weeks. That's why you have a 75 to 80% week. I am happy with that. That is perfectly fine. That's a B or C plus in college or whatever. So if you do that, you keep that consistent, you're going to be more further along being 80% on point 100% of the year than 100% on point for 6 months, and the other 6 months you're 0%. Well, that's a 50 that you average out.
Exactly.
The first 6 months you kill it, but the last 6 months you don't end up anywhere. That person that was 80 all the time, or maybe you have weeks that are 100, weeks that are 60, 80, 90. You still average out to about 80 for the year. You're going to be that much further. And that goes back to giving yourself grace, but then understanding there's sometimes you've got to maintain that pressure.
Absolutely. And I do appreciate how you said one thing for yourself, because a question that I added into my questionnaire is, what are your hobbies? And if your answer is, I go to the gym, I meal prep, I play with my dog, I scroll on Instagram, I'm like, okay, so you have no hobbies. You have an obsession with fitness and health. I was like, there, you can go on Wikipedia. There's over 100 different hobbies,
Right.
ranging from knitting to fucking archery. I was like, what did you like to do when you were a kid? Oh, I like to color. I like to do origami. I was like, great. Go to
Right.
the library. Go pick up an origami book.
Right.
Like 10 minutes, make a fucking crane. Like it's something where people just forget to play because we as adults we do have responsibilities. I don't want to downplay the stress of bills, mortgages, responsibilities to your spouse, to your kids, to your job, 100%. But you also need to give back to yourself, which kind of goes back to what we talked about in the beginning about not being a martyr for others because you are going to perform ineffectively. And the people that do 100% depend and rely on you, whether it is in a job setting or your family and friends, like you being run down and sick, that's going to cause problems, right? And not even just in the short term, in the long term, in the grand scheme of your health. And so, when it comes to setting goals, whatever your goals are, sit down with yourself, write out the reason why you want to accomplish them, and reflect on them honestly. If you need to have a conversation with someone that you trust, or a coach, or someone to gain perspective as to whether this is reasonable, do so. There's nothing wrong with having like goals that scare you, because I do think that is important to have like a goal that you're like, oh, that kind of scares me. But then, like what Trey said, break it down. Break down the big scary goal into much more chewable goals. So that way you work your confidence up versus just running into a wall because the goal was so big and you didn't have the tools and weren't equipped to achieve it.
Yeah. I think doing that, I think writing it down, I always encourage people to tell people you
Mm,
consider close. Like Val knows my goals, Austin, and then Jeff Sue, and I do that to hold myself accountable. I mean, because I know, and there's times that Jeff speaks up. Hey, remember what you said? You're not going to do X, Y, Z. You're not going to break
mhm.
your boundaries. I think that's a key component for it as well. Um, something I like to do with some of the lifestyle clients is just a rigidity break, and I have some that on the weekends that's what they do. They do a rigidity break, and they might not track everything. They might just,
Mhm.
hey, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to eat intuitive. I guess that's the word everybody uses now. They're going to intuitively eat um, and make the best decisions. I think if you do all that stuff, remember your why. Um, tell others maybe what your goals are. I don't think you need to put it on Facebook or Instagram or anything. Just tell people you feel are close to you
Yeah.
that would consider it, that would remember that, or maybe they would hold you accountable. That might be a coach. Um, and then get specific with your goals. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be, I want to lose fat. Okay, well, you can do that the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It could be, I want to lose 20 pounds and 6 inches off my waist. That way, I do not potentially run into type 2 diabetes like my mom. Very specific, but you've covered every single thing, and you've ended it with a very important why that you're trying to break the streak of health issues that run your family, or you don't want to run into an issue for
Mhm.
whatever. If it's like you're a busy parent, I want to lose 15 pounds and not have achy joints. That way I can spend more time with my kids.
Yeah.
You've covered every single thing possible. And now you've actually done everything. And notice, like, the end is where I'm telling people to put their why. For that
Yeah.
person, I want to spend time with my kids and play with them and have it
Mhm.
not be video games. Or the other person, I don't want to be like a relative that had XYZ health issue. Um, that's a really good thing everyone can do if you write that out. I think that's a really important thing, and really challenge yourself to get specific. Um,
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're going to keep spin your wheels and keep chasing it. You're going to be the same person that every year, I'm going to lose some weight this year. Okay, well, why do you want to lose weight? And it should be so other people validate me. Like,
Yeah.
actually sit down with yourself, think about what are your whys, how will you get there, map out your roadmap,
Mhm.
and then contact someone if you need help, that type of thing.
Exactly. And kind of like going off what we said in the beginning, if you don't have the knowledge, that's okay. You don't have to be an expert, and you're not going to be an expert in every little area. That's why we have people that unclog your pipes when you back it up. We
Right.
have people that, take care of your health when you don't know what's wrong. We have coaches that understand the ins and outs of nutrition and functional health and how exercise impacts, yes, muscle building, but then also just basic metabolic health. Like, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. That's something that there are services and people that genuinely want to help you. So do your research, go off of referrals. Like, when you have a community around you that want you to succeed when it comes to the love and support of family and friends and a coach to push you, like, the only one that's holding you back at that point is you. So don't do that. Take that energy and be more productive with it. And Trey, I really do appreciate your time
Sure.
this evening. I think we had some good nuggies.
Yeah, sure.
And obviously, I'll see you tomorrow. Anything else you want to talk about or plug before we sign off?
I don't think so. If you want to see another live, jump on mine and Jeff's. I think it's like the 22nd or something like that. I can't remember. So
Perfect. Is it a Monday?
I think we did a Wednesday. I don't remember why we did it. Usually we do Mondays.
Okay.
Maybe as a meeting. I think that's why we did it. But
Yeah, the
yeah, we
22nd
do this.
is a Wednesday. And Martin Luther King Jr. is the 20th. That's probably why you didn't do it. Maybe.
I don't even remember. But no, I appreciate the invite. Just tag me when you do this. I'll make sure to post on my wall.
Yeah, I got you. I can actually do a collaboration if you want.
Yeah, do that. That'll work.
All right, awesome. Thank you, sir. I appreciate
Cool.
your time, guys,
Yeah.
for joining us live or watching the replay. I do appreciate it. I hope you have a great rest of your Monday and a very happy New Year. And Trey, I'll see you tomorrow.
I'll see you.
All right, take care. Bye.